YouTube, Planet Aquarium MN, bringing you a real short video today. I want to answer a couple of questions that some folks have brought to me over the past couple months, ever since I decided to go with a wet-dry system for this 120 discus tank, and a couple of questions and concerns that a lot of people have, and maybe some fallacies or perceived risks that people have of wet-dry systems. But that is, am I concerned about flooding? Am I concerned about my siphons breaking on my overflow box? Am I concerned about power outages? But let me answer both those questions as easily and concisely as I possibly can. No, I'm not concerned with either scenario, and here's why. It is a real concern, and it is something you need to plan for, but there are ways that you can minimize that risk and eliminate that risk altogether. Now, first, the siphons breaking. Let me show you what I've done, and hopefully this gives you some ideas on what you can do if you do decide to set up a wet-dry. But in my wet-dry sump here, now I've got two sumps. I got a wet-dry and then a refugium plumbed together. In my final chamber where I have my return pump, I've added a final baffle. My water level is kept just above that baffle, maybe about an inch at maximum above that final baffle. Only the water that makes it over that final baffle, and about half the volume or maybe 2/3 of the volume that are in this final chamber before it starts choking out my pump here, is only that amount of water is going to make it back into the tank in the event that my siphons break. Now you can go online and you can find aquarium volume calculators, plug in the length of your sump, the width, and the water level, and it'll tell you how many gallons that you're talking about. So in my case, I'm looking at about 4.5 gallons of actual water, because I've got multiple baffles, etc., but only about 4.5 gallons of water is going to make it out of my system back up into my tank in the event that my siphons break. Now 4.5 gallons is enough to flood a lot of aquariums, but in my case, because I'm using the eShop's overflow boxes, one nice feature of these is they're adjustable. They've got these nylon bolts and wing nuts here, and if you loosen those up, you can push down the actual overflow box that sits in your aquarium, and when you push it down, you're actually going to adjust the water level in your tank. And I've got mine set down to where my water level is about 1.4 inches below the top of my rim. Now, using those aquarium volume calculators, 1.4 inches and 60 inches in length and 18 inches in width gives me about 6 or 6.5 gallons of additional capacity that my tank can handle before I have to worry about flooding. So if I've minimized the amount of water coming out of my sump because of that final baffle, and I've minimized that or controlled that to about 4.5 gallons, and I can handle about another 6 up here, 6.5 gallons, it eliminates that risk completely. Now, I've never had a siphon break on me, number one, but it is a possible risk for some, but I'm not concerned about it at all. Now, the second issue is backflooding in the case of a power outage. Am I worried about the reverse siphon from my return nozzles? Am I worried about the reverse siphon coming and filling up my sump and overflowing my sump? That can be addressed real easy, and it's something that everybody needs to remember if you're setting up a wet dry. You need to drill a small hole right around the water level. Mine sit right at about water level. You can drill a little tiny hole, doesn't have to be big, a 1/16 of an inch, 2/16, 3/16, whatever. And that just needs to, what that's going to do actually is, in the event of a power outage, that is going to break the reverse siphon and stop your tank from siphoning back into your sump. Just doesn't need to be a big hole, it just needs to allow a little bit of air in there to break that reverse siphon. So those two things, adding a final baffle in your return reservoir right before your sump, keeping the water level just slightly above that final baffle, drilling holes in your return nozzles, return tubes just at water level, slightly below or slightly above water level. Those two things are going to eliminate those two risks. Great questions, but they can be dealt with a little bit of planning, and that's that. So anyways, I appreciate everybody watching. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And like always, we'll catch you guys later.